So we got in last night.
Long flight.
I've never been to Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't understood a single thing anyone said to me.
No, but that doesn't matter because we're in the Highlands, so we're away from the people and
Lots of sheep.
up in the mountains, as you can see. Fun facts about Scotland. I don't know if you know this.
I don't know lots. I know that all I know about Scotland is that they film like a little Harry Potter, which I think is quite
Of
cool.
course, you would know that. The national animal
Is it?
is a unicorn. We might see a few unicorns, yeah?
We're staying at a hotel. It basically is a pub with rooms on top. So
Yeah.
if we spend long enough in the pub, we might
Have a
see
few
it.
beers.
Right?
It is also home to the largest... No? It is home to the oldest tree in Europe.
Really? How old
Yeah.
is it?
It's exciting
How
stuff.
old is the tree?
It's pretty old, I think. Anyway, that's enough about Scotland. Yeah. We are talking about things that you need to do to get ready for the new year in terms of your marketing plan and prepping as a marketer for commercial real estate.
If
It
you
is
haven't
fun.
started planning, this is a really good time to do that.
It's okay,
Because there are a lot of things to take into account when moving into a new fiscal, and it's time to put some plans in place.
where do you normally start when coming up with a new plan?
The first thing you really want to do is look at your objectives that you had from this year and assess whether you're actually achieving on those objectives or not. If you don't know how you've performed this year, you're going into the new year completely blind.
Yeah.
And as marketers, that's pretty much the scariest place to be. It's going to give you the most anxiety.
And how can you improve on your previous year without reflecting?
Exactly. So go into your channels, look at everything that you've done this year, what's worked, what hasn't worked. If it hasn't worked, why hasn't it worked?
So maybe the objectives were unattainable, or
Maybe your objectives were too crazy. Maybe you couldn't achieve those objectives because
so
you didn't have the budgets, or there are a bunch of reasons. So look at those objectives and start to get them to a place where you think you can actually achieve them going into 2024. And then analyze those channels. So how did they deliver against those business objectives? So if you were running Google search ads or Google display ads, if you were running LinkedIn campaigns, if you were running content through publications, how did those channels achieve on your business goals? Did you get more leads from certain channels? Were there channels that you didn't get any leads from?
yeah, maybe it's a platform that you need a cut going into next year. Maybe if
100%.
it's X, and it's not working for you anymore.
I think X is a great example. I think a lot of commercial real estate companies have used X in the past because there is a commercial real estate presence and community there, or even though it isn't huge, but with all the issues that they've gone through, is X something that you should be employing in next year's plan? Because it's incredibly difficult to get engagement, to build a following. You're putting a lot of time and effort into that content, and it's not really doing anything for you. So analyzing those channels is going to help you understand what you need to put more budget into and what you need to take budget out of or cut altogether. I think another important one is being really data driven next year. I think there's nowhere to kind of hide anymore from analyzing data. So using a CRM to put all of your campaigns into, and make sure that you're attributing your successes and your failures to those particular channels. So understanding the data that's coming into your CRM system, so that you are 100%, well, maybe not 100%, but 90% sure of what you need to do and what channels are going to work for next year.
Just eliminating that assumption of previous.
Assumptions are the mother of all ups, right?
So you mentioned budgets. I mean, that's one of a scary conversation for someone in marketing. That's obviously, I can come to you and say, like, we should have this budget, but you're going to ask why, or you're going to say, no, the budget's kind of already been distributed across the board. So it's a tough conversation to have. And, when do you have that conversation? Because it never really seems like there's the right time.
Most companies that have marketing budgets in place, whatever they might be, obviously with the kind of state of the economy in commercial real estate at the moment, marketing budgets have been slashed. Mostly, it's generally the first thing to go, and especially in commercial real estate.
Yeah.
So whether or not those marketing budgets are going to increase or not, it's hard to say. But I think what's really important when you are trying to get budget for next year is looking at what revenue you produce from your marketing this year. So that's the most important thing. If you're showing some sort of return on the marketing spend that you put in, or some return on the ad spend that you put in, that's going to allow you to start negotiating for bigger budgets for marketing. That's what we all want. We all want bigger budgets for marketing as marketers. Of course, that's what we always want.
Yeah. I think this also ties back quite nicely to the previous step, where you kind of see what worked and what didn't, and what sort of tactics you want to take going forward, and therefore optimize your budget according to those tactics. So instead of just saying, let's have the exact same budget and spread it and, kind of hope that the platform that didn't work previously will work because of the budget increase or whatever you're trying to do, that kind of tweaking of it.
You said the word hope, and that we don't ever want to go into a planning situation using the word hope or assuming, right?
Yeah.
We don't ever want to use those words. The idea is that if you spend $5,000 on Google search ads last year and they brought in a good number of leads and you had a really good click-through rate and the cost per lead was really low, then Google search is a great platform for you. And you know that, okay, cool, that platform is working for me. We spent $5,000 there, brought in 200 leads, whatever it did. That is something that we need to put more money into this year, right? So that's an easy one to start to negotiate from a budgeting point of view. You can put that into your budget. Cool, let's double that budget for Google search ads. If you put in $5,000 into Facebook, for example, based on previous year that maybe it worked, and this year it didn't work, for there could be a number of reasons. Maybe you're only pushing awareness content, whatever. It's time to sort of rethink what that budget for Facebook would look like, right? So if you put $5,000 in and you only got 5 leads, the cost per lead is it's a lot of money, right? It's $1,000 a lead. You shouldn't be paying $1,000 a lead, no matter how sort of qualified that lead is.
Whatever your product.
I mean, unless Facebook has brought in an absolutely huge client.
Yeah. Big fish.
Then it's time to reconsider that budget. So maybe halving that Facebook budget and putting that extra $2,500 into Google search, which worked. Maybe you've run some publication emailers, and as we know, those publications are pretty expensive.
Yeah. So going into like the type of content as well, which is what we also do, is when we going forward, we take all of our learnings and see what content worked in that specific phase, whether it's awareness or acquisition, and then constantly tweak that. So that's so important to have your fingers on the pulse. You can make one big change in terms of budget, but it might be smaller little tweaks that could also fix that issue. It's like a little engine where you're tightening the fan belt, but it might just be like a little cog that is like the timing's off. So now you do a whole big job where you could just flip that timing.
Exactly, and that's why it's so imperative to understand how your channels have performed, right? You can really only do that by analyzing that data. And I think when anyone says analyze data, everyone's like, oh man, I don't know.
It's a lot of work,
analyze data, right?
We're not data analysts, but we are at the same time.
But once you get into it can be quite interesting. It starts to tell and paint an interesting picture of what you've achieved this year. So if you do have a marketing plan in place and you do have objectives and KPIs, it's an interesting way of understanding, was this year good or not? If it was good, we have we've got something to leverage in our budget discussion. If it didn't go well, that's when you need to start sort of scrambling and looking for reasons, right? It could be the economy. It could be that your targeting was off. Maybe your design and your creative wasn't working well enough. So there are a bunch of different reasons why things didn't work. If things are working really, really well, then it's obviously a much easier sell.
So we look at a lot of changes within resources, budgets, time and energy, but that also comes into play with who works at your company and who's putting in all this work. And like when do you kind of stop and check to see if you need to level up certain departments or alleviate certain teams that can do a bit more in terms of going forward into your new marketing plan?
Yeah. Like going into a new fiscal year is always the best time to start thinking about all those things, right? You need to take stock of how your plans and your campaigns and your initiatives were implemented this year. Ask yourself, how was that strategy or that plan actually implemented by you, by your team, by the agency that you're using? If you have an agency, what is their skill level like? Are they skilled enough to pull off what your audience needs from a marketing point of view? And you must always remember that the audience moves with trends of the world, right? So even though we're in commercial real estate and we see that the commercial real estate industry doesn't necessarily itself move very fast when it comes to digital trends, that audience, the potential audience, especially if they're slightly younger, they are doing that. They're doing that, but not in a commercial real estate point of view. They're doing it in their own terms and on their own personal Instagram feeds.
And also your audience's audience.
Your audience is
deep.
Your clients, right?
Yeah.
So, the industry at large may not be moving as fast, but the audience and the audience's audience is.
It's kind of like the ice caps that are melting. You can't see it happening in front of you, but over time it is, and
it's happening.
In 2 years down the line, it's no more ice, and and you fall in.
It's cold.
And it's cold. Yeah, don't be on that ice.
In our previous video, we talked about all these trends going into 2024. Is your team able to
execute
those trends? So from a video point of view, are they able to create the video content that your audience and your audience's audience needs to stay relevant with the world, right? So it's a great time to kind of take stock of that. Do you need help? Do you need outside help?
Yeah.
Do you need an agency?
Gone are the days
specializes in commercial real estate. I don't know.
Who does that?
Maybe. Do you need to level up your team? Do you need to grow your team? Do you need to employ an influencer? I was on such a roll, bro.
I'm sorry.
Think about who you're hiring. Are you hiring someone that is going to generate value for your business? Or are you hiring an intern that is just going to, I don't know,
post Instagram stories,
post shit, right? Are they experts in SEO? Are they experts in paid media? Are they experts in strategy? Are they able to come up with creative ideas? No. That is unfortunately not the case when you hire cheap labor from a marketing point of view. They're not able to do all of those things. We're looking at huge trends that are complicated. They need skilled people to implement those trends. So it's always a good thing having help, and that's always going to go a long way. But it's a great time now when you're going into the new fiscal to kind of look at your team and say, okay, who is able to implement these marketing plans? Do we need to hire more interns? Do we need to hire more skilled people? Do we need to hire an agency that is, that specializes in commercial real estate like us? But it's a really good time to look at your talent and assess how you are going to return on your marketing investment for next year.
I mean, as we know, the commercial real estate marketing it's a busy space to be in terms of conferences, certain initiatives. There's always people doing something. And it's a full calendar if you had to do everything. So you also have to kind of choose what you want to do and want to be a part of. So, when do you do that? How do you kind of choose those things? And, is this the right time to do it now?
Yeah, well, you have to do it now. You have to do it now. You can't wait. You can't wait much longer than now to start doing that. The obviously, your company is going to have certain initiatives and pillars and cultural pillars and stuff like that you need to talk about. There's obviously a sales aspect. There's a culture aspect. Whatever your business objectives are, you need to return investment on them, or at least grow your marketing on those objectives. So the best way to go about doing it is to really map that out. So what I like to do is just get a spreadsheet, a blank spreadsheet, and just mark out January to December, and then go through the different channels that you have and what sort of marketing initiatives you are thinking about planning for next year. So cool, May, we've got ICSC, right? That's in the calendar. What are we doing for ICSC? What are we planning? Or, are we...
I'm sure that also then plays on the budget that you now pushing for.
Exactly. So whatever events that you'll know what events you want to be part of, and not map those out in your calendar. January to December, map out your events. What big kind of campaigns do you need to run next year? So are you looking at increasing recruitments? Are you looking at increasing tenants? Do you need more leases, vacancies filled? Do you need to recruit more brokers? Are you looking to maybe expand your offices into new areas? So those are all things that are driven by your business objectives, which you can start planning for in your content calendar. So starting to say, okay, cool, like we really need to recruit more brokers next year. So we're going to run a marketing campaign to recruit more brokers. So that's going to go into your calendar, and you're going to specify, cool, it's going to run on these channels. They work the best for us this year, and we're going to put this sort of budget into it. This can be ballpark numbers until you really know. So mapping out your initiatives for 2024 is super important, but at the same time, it's going to de-stress you. Just get the stuff that is important to the business in a spreadsheet that you're going to want to tackle for next year.
So I think a lot of people like to look forward and see what new business they can generate and how to implement this plan to do that. But I think a lot of people forget to kind of look within and see what you've achieved already. And, what are the sort of things that you kind of need to look into? What's a big one that you need to identify when reflecting internally?
Ask your brokers how has marketing helped them this year? What do they want to see from you? Try and get as much feedback from current clients, from your internal teams, and how they feel and what they've thought about your marketing. For me, an incredibly important one is getting some customer feedback. So it's one thing for you to have an idea of how you've performed, but if you've generated any clients through your marketing campaigns, initiatives, events that you've been to, this is a great time to understand how they found you, right? So if you were out there cold calling, great, that's one thing. If you had your sales team cold calling, that's great. But understanding where your leads came from, where your clients came from, how they found out about you is a brilliant way for you to understand where you need to kind of put the majority of your spend as well.
And also those long-standing clients, see if they're still happy, because they're paying to keep the lights on, essentially. I think it's like
how do they think you perform?
Yeah.
Have they seen your marketing out there?
It's like a relationship. I mean, we always say marketing is like a relationship, but it's like now it's that annual check-in or that bi-monthly check-in where you're like, what do I do that makes you happy? What am I doing that makes you unhappy? And if you don't do those, that relationship's going to be on the rocks in no time.
That's going to give you a really good idea of building a plan that works for your audience. And we always say this, well, I always say this, the audience, your audience is the most important part of your marketing plan. A lot of times companies and brands will create plans based on their products and how they feel about things because they know their brand so well, but it's not for you.
Yeah, they're planning looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to do well. Like, you're the best. Yeah.
You need to always think about how your audience is going to receive that information and that content. Are they finding it valuable? You want them to be like, this is gold. This is what I've been looking for. So having that audience in mind is going to help you create a better plan at the end of the day. And understanding, getting their feedback is going to make that so much easier.
This is stressful. There's a lot of work that goes into a plan.
I know it sounds like a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, look at what you've done this year. And that's going to give you a great idea of how you plan for next year. And if you want to call it a strategy and you need some help, let us know. But if you just want to plan and you want to put it in an Excel spreadsheet or you want to put it on Post-its, that's fine. But have something's
better than nothing.
And work towards.
Yeah.
Going back to the pub.
Back to the pub. Yeah.
It's starting to rain.
You saw some sheep earlier. I mean, I need a new jacket. Yeah. So
we just go shear some sheep.
Shear some sheep.
I was
What too many pints?
brought my clippers.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Look, I know Guinness is not from Scotland. It's really good.
Let's have some. And I think, Scotland, Ireland,
Yeah.
it's very similar.
Guys, if you need any help, let us know. But good luck going into next year. Look at the last video on trends. I hope you find some value in it and you're able to put some decent plans together.
See you next time.
Cool. Cheers.